Okay, everyone, we're going to try this again. So tonight's guest is Kristin Natwick, and Kristin Natwick was actually the first friend of mine who I knew that had infertility, actually. So this is the first time I ever heard, like, oh, you're going through infertility? What is that? Um, and I kind of came in when she was in the middle of her. Okay, I'm hitting add, Kristin. Oh, I think it's going to work this time. Her, was infertility. What are you going through? And kind of saw, what that does to a friend, how that affects them as a couple. So I kind of, oh, is she on? Hi, is it working? Okay, try talking once. Can you hear me, Kristin? We'll get it. We'll get it. I was just saying how you were the first friend of mine. I'll get those earbuds going. Can't hear me? You might have to try your fun buds, your old buds. She was the first friend of mine who went through infertility, and she was my go-to when I started going through infertility as well. She was the first person I went to. Um, what do I do? Where do I go next? So I couldn't have been more excited to have her be our first guest tonight. Oh, she froze. We'll get her back. We're making progress. Out of the way on night one, so we have it figured out from here on out. Um, if you can hear me, can you just like drop hi or an emoji or something fun just to make sure that my end is working right? Oh, yay, you can hear me. Wonderful. Oh, yay, Desiree's on. She will be our guest Tuesday, I think. I'm so excited. I met so many wonderful people through this journey and through legislation and just kind of everything in the last 6 months. So I'm just excited for everyone to hear from them and learn more, whether you've been through infertility or not. I think there's something for everyone to kind of learn from each of our speakers, and I hope that you find our page educational and interactive as well. So, oh, Kristin, I lost you again. Okay, she's back. And I have to give a shout out to my friend Jenny Rorick. You'll see her story posted later this week, but she's like my technical guru. She graphic image designer, like, help, Jenny. What does this picture look like? Can you make this picture? There's Kristin. She's come back. So thank you, Jenny. this is just, I'm in the medical field, so this technology, and I definitely am out of my comfort zone doing lives, but um, I just, I'm not creative and I'm not into techie stuff. So you got to have people around that can help. There she is. Okay, can you hear me? Oh, you keep freezing. Okay, I think. Can you hear me, Kristen? Can you hear me, Kristen? No, can't hear you. Try your old school buds. So funny, we were practicing last night because I have a whole practice page set up so we would get things flowing, and we were talking about how it's just not cute or cool to have the buds with the cord hanging off of them. And so she's like, I'm gonna go find some of those wireless ones. And I just told her she has to go get her old ones back, I think. Oh, there. Are you plugged in?
Yeah, I think it was my fake my fake Apple iPods I bought.
I just told them.
That's what you get. That's what you get when you spend $30 versus 160. So lesson learned, don't go buy them.
No,
So I have to go with the janky
cords. That's okay. That's
whatever
okay.
wire ones. Cords. Yeah. Sorry it took so long.
You're okay.
I was really hoping these were gonna work, but they didn't work. So
No, the cord's pretty stylish.
here we are.
It's okay. Well,
Yeah.
I told them all about you. I told them how you were my first friend to go through infertility and how you were there for me when I started going through mine. So I think let's just jump right in and let's just start with like your journey. Like you were probably like everybody else. Oh, okay, we're gonna get married and the time is right, and now we're gonna try to have a family. And
Yep.
oh gosh, oh how many? We're 3 months in, 4 months in, 6 months in. Nothing's happening. If I remember correctly, you were just like me, like normal cycle. Um, I knew I had endometriosis. I knew that. They said it could possibly, maybe, kind of, sort of, someday. It was a very low conversation worry with the OBGYN. Could be a problem with infertility. So tell us at what point you were kind of like, something's not right. Things are not working. Now what?
Well, we were married for about a year, maybe less than a year, when we decided to start trying actively, I guess. And my cycles actually weren't regular. Like before that, I had been on birth control for a long time. And so I went off that, and they were really irregular, but kind of regular. I don't know. Anyway, so we did, like 6 months and then nothing. And I said, okay, like we need to go in or I need to go in and see what they can say. So of course, they do all the blood work, and they said, a couple hormone levels were off, but nothing to be concerned about. So I started, with the Clomid. I did a couple rounds of that. I did a couple rounds of letrozole, which is another form of kind of like Clomid. Did that for a couple months, nothing. And so they're like, all right, well, let's add in, let's do an IUI, an insemination. So I thought, okay, like this has got to be it. My mom didn't have any problems getting pregnant. Like my aunts, like nobody come from larger families. So anyway, we did, oh gosh, I think like 7 or 8 IUIs here locally. And nothing happened. Nothing. I never got pregnant. I mean, nothing. So they decided, well, maybe, you need to speak with, an actual reproductive endocrinologist. So we did, and we talked to someone in Fargo. Who was our first person we talked to in Fargo? I think it was Dr. Dahl. And they said, well, let's try some more, like maybe 2 or 3 more IUIs, but we'll do it with injectable medication. So we did those. So we had to do a lot of driving. We actually had to drive at that point in time. They weren't really coming to Bismarck, so we had to drive to Fargo for maybe
Mhm.
10-minute appointments. Um, and so we did a couple of those. Okay, then that didn't work. And mind you, at this point too, so we have done 8 IUIs locally. We did 2 IUIs in Fargo, and we had only $20,000 of insurance money. Now, I know that's, we should be grateful, and I am grateful that we had that money, but $20,000
Mhm.
goes,
Yep.
like that. You know that, Tara. Um, so anyway, so after, we still have some of our insurance money left, but we decided at this point, since everything we've done has been unsuccessful, we're going to go ahead and do IVF. And so I guess a long story short, because my story I feel is very long, we ended up doing a retrieval in Fargo. That's where they, take your eggs out and they fertilize them. And we got a really good number of embryos, and so we were really hopeful. And we did one, I guess they called a fresh transfer, where they take the embryos and they implant them right back in you. We did that right away, and that failed. And so we, were heartbroken, obviously, because we had been through so much. And so we're like, okay, we still got embryos, like everything
So
looks
at that
great. It
point,
just,
Kristen, were you
didn't work
like, was your
out.
20,000 used?
Oh yeah, at that point our 20,000 was used
Yep.
because of the medication, and then the going under anesthesia in the OR, all that stuff. Like our $20,000 was gone within a matter of, I don't know, I
Well,
can't even remember the
to put
time
it into
period, but I
perspective,
mean,
when you did your medication rounds, and I'm probably uber familiar with some of the numbers now because I did it for legislation, but just for let's say you went in right away when you did letrozole or Clomid, that's $1,200. And to tell people why, it's because of lab work, ultrasound, and the medications. And medication prices, if they see you have that insurance, that 20,000 lifetime insurance, they double, if not more than that. I don't know, I'm not math whiz, but it's like 100% increase almost when they see you have insurance. So a lot of times people end up paying out of pocket for those medications because it's cheaper. They give you an out of pocket cost on those medications versus running it through your insurance. And on top of that 20,000,
right,
you have usually a $500 deductible in addition to your normal deductible. So whatever your normal deductible is, you're going to have an infertility deductible. So I know, like for us, for 3 IUIs with oral medication and one injectable was like $5,500. So that was, I paid for all medications on the side. So before I even got to my IVF, which yours is probably the same way, you already spent 5,000 of your 20,000. Now add travel and I mean hotel stays and all of that into it because you have to be there at special times and all of that.
yeah,
I'm going to say the same thing you did. I am uber grateful for 20,000. And one thing we were fighting for this bill is let's just try giving everybody that 20,000 for starters, or let's try increasing it to like 50,000 because bread and milk go up in price, so does healthcare. So that 20,000 actually has been in place since I talked to somebody and they have an 18-year-old and they had it. So it's been around some old grandfathered plans for 20 years. I don't, a long time. We'll say 20, baseline 20 years has never changed. That price has never changed. And I think, and I'm going to call it out right now, Stanford does have the option on their some of their plans for it, but they don't even offer that to their employees. So it just makes my heart ache when there's people who have none, and then you even get to the point of going through 8 IUIs, you've probably burned a large chunk of it for you right there. So now hit your point of IVF,
right.
and you're doing your first round of IVF.
Yep, so we did our first round. They called a fresh transfer. It didn't work. Regrouped with the doctors and said, we're going to do, your body was full of medication at this time. we're going to rest and your body will be, not as stressed. So I'm like, great, this is going to be it. So, and in the meantime, like, this isn't happening like
No.
right away next month. Like, we have had to take breaks like month breaks in between. We had to take breaks for financial reasons. Like, we just didn't have the money laying around. We had to take breaks for emotional reasons, or I did. Like, I just couldn't handle it. I mentally needed a break. So this is like a course of years. So we started all of our stuff in 2009. And just to give you a time frame, our son was born in 2015. So it took us a long time from where we started to actually having like a real live baby. But so finally we did our second, they called a frozen transfer. And that didn't work. And we were dumbfounded. We're like, this is IVF. It has to work. It works, So that didn't work. And so we still had embryos left, and we're like, well, third time's a charm. Like, we're going to do this. So again, we regrouped, got ourselves, ready, and we can do this. And we did it a third time, another frozen transfer, and it didn't work. And I'll never forget, Dr. Dahl called me that third time. And she's like, I'm just so sorry. We don't really have an answer for you. Like, we don't really know why this isn't working. And I just remember thinking, you're a doctor. Like, how can you not know why this isn't working? Like, you were supposed to know it all. And, I should have said up front too, I was never given a formal diagnosis. Like you said, you had endometriosis. They were never, they gave me the unexplained infertility.
Diagnosis. It's not friendly or anything to the mind, but like it is they give a diagnosis. It's a bullcrap diagnosis as a patient.
Yeah. So that was a really hard pill to swallow. We had spent all this time, all this money, all this emotion thinking it's going to work, and it didn't. So we were kind of at a crossroads of what we were going to do. We had like a couple embryos left. I think we had 2 left. And it's like, what are we going to do? There's always options. Adoption was an option. And, trying again was an option. And at that point, I wasn't ready to give up. I'm a pretty determined person. I always said, anything in life I wanted, I really worked hard for, and I got it. I worked hard in school. You're that type of person. I'm a type A person. So I'm like, I'm not giving up. Like, this is going to happen. I'm going to make this happen. And I kind of, you kind of get a little obsessed about it.
Very rabbit hole.
Yes. Yeah. So, I just said, we just have to go further. We have to explore other options. So we did. And it's kind of funny how I ended up at our next clinic. So we ended up at CCRM, which is a clinic in Denver, and it's kind of a world-renowned infertility clinic. And I actually found out about it because I was a big fan of Juliana Rancic. And she and her husband, Bill, they had a TV show, and they were going through infertility, and that's where they cycled. And so when, thinking about what we should do next, I'm like, Nate, we should go to Denver. My mom was living in Denver at the time, and her house was actually really close to the clinic. And I'm like, let's just get a consult. This is like the best place in the world. So we called, had a consult, went down there, went through all the testing, and they said, hey, we can help you. And I said, yes, the door is not closed, finally. So we went down to Denver. We decided to do another egg retrieval. Now, mind you, Denver is going to be costing us out of pocket for everything. We had no insurance at this point. We didn't have any insurance after our retrieval, basically in Fargo. So we're paying out of pocket for everything. We're paying out of pocket for the 2 transfers we had in Fargo, for that travel. like I said, now we're going down to Denver. Denver is a different story with price. Not that Fargo was expensive, but it's a lot more expensive. But they have a great lab and they're world renowned. So anyway, we do a retrieval again, get great embryos made. We're gonna do a transfer, a frozen transfer. So I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, this is gonna work. We're in Denver, like our embryos are great, like everything's great. So we do a transfer and they call me and I'm not pregnant, like nothing again. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Like, what is going on? And, I'm just devastated because I thought this was really going to work. And, and he's still, and we're in Denver and they still can't tell us what the deal is. And so again, now here we had to make a hard choice. We still have good embryos. Our doctor, we worked with Dr. Gustafson down there, and another conversation I won't forget is he said, I think we should try one more time, but if it doesn't work, I think you need to explore other options at this point. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So, we were lucky. We had really good embryos. That was never an issue, I think. I don't even remember. I think we had like 8. We had total. We did all the genetic testing. I mean, we paid for all that extra too to make sure that we had like the best of the best. And that's again why I'm like, why didn't these work? We paid for all this extra testing and our embryos are supposed to be so great. So, in between all this, I should say, we were pretty open with people about this, especially like our close friends. I actually have a couple close friends that went through infertility during the time that I did too. And so that was always helpful. And then I kind of met a girl, a friend of a friend, and she, kind of came into this group of friends that I had. And I'll never forget, before my last transfer in Denver, she's like, well, Kristin, I'll be your surrogate. I'll do it for you. Pregnancy was easy for me. Like, I'll do it for you. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. Like, if you need that, I'll do it for you.
By anybody else before,
and I was,
though? No, that's the first time anyone ever said that to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, well, like, okay, I'll hold you to it, like, all right, thinking like, no way, never. Right. That's never going to happen. Super nice of her to offer, but no, we don't do that. Like, that just doesn't happen. So,
like, you think forward, but you don't think forward.
And I always had a plan. I'm always a plan person. And, and so when she offered, I'm like, well, super nice again, but it's going to work. Like, it has to work. So we went into this second transfer in Denver. Again, a really good embryo. Everything looks good. Like the same story I've heard for years, like all the lab work, blood work, everything looks great. Perfect. They call me back and they're like, well, you're technically pregnant. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, your pregnancy level is this number. Well, the number was super low. Like at this point, like I knew all sorts of things. And so they called it a chemical pregnancy where it starts to implant, but then it stops. And so again, another failure. So, in a matter of a couple years, I had 5 failed IVF cycles. And, I knew what Dr. Gustafson had said, that we need to look onto other options. And at that point, it was just, right. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe we were here.
No.
Because you never think that. You never think that's going to happen to you. Right. That happens to someone else.
They have something wrong with them at least. Like they have a diagnosis of some sort. You're fine. It's fine.
Right. And you just don't think it's going to happen to you. And when it does, I mean, you're shell-shocked. And, it was just very hard. It's difficult. It's financially difficult. It's emotionally difficult. It was difficult on our marriage at some points too. So, there's just a lot of factors that went into it. So, so you kind of have to get to that point of kind of grieving what you pictured life might be like, because, I always thought, well, I'm going to carry a baby and I'm going to be pregnant. Well, and now I kind of have to let that go, which is still hard for me to this day, that I haven't never experienced that. So after our last failed cycle, it was early summer. It was the summer of 2014. After we failed, I texted my friend that had said she would be a surrogate. I said,
"Is the
all
offer
right.
up there still?"
I said, I said, I'm reaching out to you, because you said you would do this and you'd be interested. She's like, most definitely. She's like, yes, I will do this. And so I'm like, okay, are we really going to do this? Like, is this something that we're really going to do? So she and her husband and my husband and I traveled down to Denver because she had to go through this workup too. They have really strict regulations for surrogates. And so in order for her to even be considered a surrogate there, she has to pass all of their testing and all of, their psychology or their, they have, what kind of testing they have? Like, psychologist, counseling, like she has to do all this stuff. And so she passed. And so after we got the go ahead that, she's good to go, I'm like, oh my gosh, are we really going to do this? And at that point, I was ready. I mean, we had spent a lot of time and a lot of motion, waiting for a baby. So we ended up, our friend was like, whenever you're ready, we're going to do this. So it was, when was it? It was March of 2015. We went down to Denver and we transferred. And about 9 days later, we got the news that she was pregnant. She actually took a home pregnancy test before she went and did blood work. And I remember her taking a picture. She's like, can you see it? Can you see it? And I'm like, I think I can. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but I think so. And so, and then, she was pregnant and her number was good. And, we were so excited, but we were definitely out of the woods. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody.
Right.
I didn't want to tell anybody. We had just been through so much like failure and heartache. So I didn't. I said, I can't even like get excited about this. I went to some early appointments with her and like hearing the heartbeat, like
whole new level of
really
emotion that you've
exciting.
entered at that. Yes.
Yeah. So we were so lucky to have like an uneventful pregnancy. I got to go to appointments. My surrogate lived in Fargo. So we got to go like as often as we could. She came to my baby shower.
No.
Sorry, this is more emotional than I thought it was going to be.
Emotion, the real thing. How many?
I know, but I feel like I've told this story a lot, so I can't. And so like you said, she had a great pregnancy. She was so amazing and so awesome and just super laid back and just easy breezy. And he was born, we scheduled a C-section and he was born at 39 weeks and he was perfect. And but like I said, it took us from 2009 to 2015 to get our baby. And our baby now is 3.5 and he's running around upstairs crazy. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, there's like so many more details and so many more things, but just in a nutshell, that's our journey. And I have to say, like, as painful and lonely as our journey was, I can't tell you like the friendships I've made and formed. Just I've just met so many people and just have been able to be in conversations with people that I never would have been able to if I wouldn't have
What's
been
so
through
wonderful
this.
about the infertility community is there is that strong connection among one another. We're like, come under our wing, you
Yeah.
know, let's help you out, and that's something I'll be forever grateful for you for too, to you for taking me under your wing, um, in a ride one never thinks they're gonna go down. I mean, I remember,
No. And I think that's just a big thing is, and I know at times it's just what you have to go through, but I tell people all the time, I'm like, it's such a lonely road,
right?
but you're not alone. Like there are people out there um, to talk and to help you. I mean, and just to listen. And
Yes,
like myself, I am always like, I've known numerous people that have gone through infertility, and I'm like, please call me, please text me. Like, I'm an open book. If I can, do anything good, or if anything good can come out of my sad story or my hard journey, like this is it. So, and I
yeah.
know that's how you feel too, and why you
And
do the
I
things that
think
you do.
you and I
But
both would agree we weren't open books right away. We were very quiet about it. I didn't even tell my own
mhm.
family about it right away. Let alone your friends. You worry about what are they going to think? What's wrong with me? What like all these things go through your head. So it is very lonely right away. You don't become like you and I right off the bat. And one reason I did this
No,
is because to speak up
drink
for
here.
those that are still in that quiet, lonely stage of it all is to be that voice for them and speak out for them. We don't expect people to just be like, oh, I'm not having a baby, I'm going to post about it and share my story and like everything. We are here for you. We want to be a source of support for those still in it. And one thing unique and one big reason I wanted you is because of the surrogacy thing. So let's go back and let's say we don't have a friend
Mhm.
who's like, me, I'll do
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like, what can one do? Because I know you had kind of you've looked into the other side of it too at one point of not using someone you know. Uh, what does one do?
Right.
Where does one start,
And
or what do they expect in that part of it?
well, so I'll answer that in just a second. So here's the wild thing though. So I met a couple girls here in Bismarck that also had babies via surrogate around the same time I did. And one of them, you're asking what you would do if you don't have a friend, because, a friend or a family member is
Hmm.
kind of a rare thing. But there are agencies out there that you can go to that will match you with potential
Oh,
surrogates. So, gosh, if you
right.
just like Google, I have a couple a couple agencies that my friend used when she went through her
Maybe before
surrogacy
that,
journeys
you
and
could
was
just
very
put them in the
happy with them.
comments, and then it'll stay in conversation. Let's have you do
Yeah.
that at the end.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's another way, with surrogacy, it's just kind of a whole
Hmm.
another set of rules, I guess you could say. There is an added
Yes.
cost, obviously. Um, there are legal fees and things that you have to drop with a lawyer. So there's a lot more to it, but in our case, it ended up um, being what was best for us and to build our family, and we're just forever grateful to our
And there's
carrier, our
legal fees no
surrogate,
matter if
and
you know the person or you go through an agent, correct? Yes, that's
oh yeah,
part of it. Surrogate legal
yep,
fees in addition to everything else. Okay.
yeah,
Now, how did it work
yes, yeah.
for like healthcare insurance when she was pregnant? How does that kind of work?
So it depends on each person's plan, but with her insurance plan, her
Okay.
pregnancy was covered under her insurance plan. So I ended up paying just
Right.
what was, co-pays or what wasn't covered by insurance, which is key. And that's what most people, when they're looking for a surrogate, need to do or want to do, is find someone with, they call it surrogate friendly insurance. So, or sometimes people have to go outside and purchase their own insurance policy for their surrogate too. So, but the best way to go about it is to find a surrogate with surrogate friendly insurance. And if you go through an agency, they have
pre-approved
those
or checked or something like
things.
that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
tips would you have for somebody when they're first starting to think, okay, I think I'm going to look into surrogacy. Like, this might be something I have to do. What now? Where do I start? Was your clinic friendly with helping you, guide you, or was it completely on your own, research on your own?
Well, I think I just, like everybody, I did a lot of research, especially with the clinic that I was going to, like what were their guidelines, like, what was the cost, just kind of getting all those facts and figures before, what were the legal things that I had to figure out. When you work with an agency, you have to pay to be working with this agency, and they actually do all of those things for you. They will set up and arrange those things. Whereas I never worked with an agency, so I did all those things myself. So it was a lot of work. I mean, I had to find the lawyers. I had to find, I had to do the insurance. I had to call insurance companies. Like, I had to do a lot of the legwork on those things to figure it out. So I guess just think about, what are you worried about cost, get an idea of that. Oops, I'm losing my sweet headphones. Cost and, what your clinic's guidelines are, and just kind of go from there. It can be overwhelming, but if you just do it in small steps, it will all just kind of fall into place.
And if anyone has questions, you could leave them in the comment section and we'll answer them now, or you can private message and I'll make sure to get them too afterwards. So she is so excellent about sharing. What is your...
Yeah. I'm trying to read these comments. Okay. Sorry, I'm like touching the screen because I'm like,
Yeah. What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who's just starting or in the midst? And if they're different, that's great, from beginning to middle to end even. What is something you'd want them to know or keep in mind?
Well, it's so hard when you're in the midst of it, but just to always have hope. Like, hope is such a big word that I'm kind of encompassing in my life with just everything in life, but just always having hope. And I've told this to many people or many of my friends that have gone through infertility. I said, you know what? You're going to have a baby. You just don't know when and you don't know how, but it's going to happen. If you have a baby through adoption, if you have a baby through IVF, if you have a baby through surrogacy, it will happen. I also do know that sometimes it doesn't happen too. I don't know. It's such a hard thing. And I know for a lot of people too, the money is a factor when, they're thinking of starting a family and they can't move forward. And we were so fortunate to be able to do that. But I guess just don't give up if it's really in your heart, that you want to be a mom. Like, keep going. You just have to go through hell and back to get that baby. And like I said, it will happen. You just don't know when and you don't know how. And if as much as you can, lean on your friends and family. And I know that's not, again, for everybody, and not everybody can do that, but it's so important to be able to talk to somebody.
Well, your friends and family are leaving you nice comments.
Are they? I know I have a lot of family in Arizona right now. I'm not there.
Family in Arizona love you, and we're so proud of you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you, family. I miss you. I wish I was in Arizona. I'm in my toy room in my basement in Bismarck.
Similar, kind of.
Similar, yeah. So I don't know, with just infertility itself, it's just there are so many twists and turns, and everybody's story is different, and um, everybody's story is important. So never think that what you're going through is like not the same or like, not that big of a deal compared to others.
Yeah.
I don't know, everybody has their own stuff they're going through, and reach out for support.
And I
We're
always found
here.
it, I mean, to go to those who have been through it. Oh, Paige just wrote a nice comment too. To go, sometimes in the beginning, especially, it's easier to go to those that have been there versus those that have kids or haven't walked your walk yet. Find those that have walked your walk, and I connected with a lot of people on Instagram. And in addition, I think there's like 3 of you that I knew at the time when I started. So like I'd of course come to you guys, and then I was
Yeah.
looking for people who had been to the clinics that we had went to, and the same step that you're in too. I always found it nice, like, okay, I'm going through IUI. I'm going to find somebody who's going through IUI, because I don't even speak IVF language at this point, kind of finding, that right person to kind of match your path at the time too is always cool.
Yeah. I mean, this, as unfortunate as it might sound, I have so many friends that have dealt with infertility. So I've been lucky that I have a lot of people in my life that I could turn to and they can turn to me.
And the numbers going up.
So it's just,
It
it's
is.
more common
Yeah,
than you think.
yeah, I
It really
opened up.
is.
My secretary is going through it. What? I've been sitting in an office of 6 people this whole time, and my dearest friend, who's my secretary, is what? I didn't even, it's like, and then I had her, right there by my side every day, and had you and my friend Paige. Like, what point do I move on to the next step? That's another thing too. And ultimately,
Yeah.
the best advice was, when it's right for you and your spouse to move on. But you guys saved me too, because I always remember you saying, do not do more than 3 IUIs. And sure enough, when I also went to CCRM, that was their thing, was nope, 3, you're done. And that might not be for everybody though.
Yeah.
For financial reasons, medical, insert whatever, but you do you and do how many ever you feel is right when it comes to treatment. But be aware and be alert to statistics too, I think, medically, that are out there, and how much you want to drag through certain phases of it.
Right. Yeah. And looking back, I mean, we just didn't know, but oh my gosh, I would never have done that many
Right.
IUIs. Like that was a waste
Right.
of time and money. So,
No,
but
and I
again, I
learned
didn't
from
know.
you that part of it.
I remember I did tell you that. I'm like, don't do more than 2 or 3.
You're
It's a
like,
waste
no,
of
no,
time.
no. All right, done. Moving on. Next step. Like, yeah. So
Moving on.
yeah,
Yep.
it's helpful to reach out, and we'll talk more about support groups and counseling tomorrow with Patty.
Oh, Patty is so great. I actually did see Patty. I should say, segue to her tomorrow. Patty, I saw her a number of times. And then I also was a part of her infertility support group here in Bismarck. So I'm excited to hear her speak, and she's fabulous.
And finding
So.
that close group too, that and to go to counseling, how important it is. I don't know. If you know me personally, I hand out counseling like candy. I'm all about it. I think it's so important, especially when you're going through something like infertility. So
Yes. Yeah, she'll have a lot of good things to say. And oh, yeah, counseling was key. I did it on and off. And then, like I said, I did the infertility support group. It was, I think, once a month. I think it still is. I did that for, gosh, I think like a couple years, and made some really good friends out of that group too. So,
yeah. Was there anything else, Kristin, you'd like to share? We missed.
oh my gosh, I've talked your ear off. People are like, stop talking. No, I guess I would just say, if anybody has questions, or I don't know, I'm just like, I'm here to help. I'm more than willing to answer any questions, or and just keep the faith. Don't give up. My husband's, one of his favorite songs is Don't Stop Believing by Journey. And so just, just don't stop believing. Like, keep going. It'll happen.
Karaoke day 1.
Oh yeah, karaoke day one.
You
Yep.
guys can private
So,
message Kristin, or you can message Beating the Infertility
mhm.
Stigma North Dakota, and I will make sure to pass them on to Kristin. So I just want to thank you for being so open and sharing, and yeah, just being a huge part of this page as well. You've helped me through this all, and you're my go-to. So thank you for that. And
You are
we
welcome.
will be, yes, like you said, tomorrow night we're with Patty Teagle. She is a counselor and she leads the Resolve support group in Bismarck. So we'll hear more about that and about her infertility struggles. And so make sure to share this video for your chance to win our prize contest we have going on. Bonus entry, you can check out the actual, of course, a software update would pop up. I love that. I don't know if it shows. It probably doesn't even show. Remind me later. Anyhow, make sure to share, join us, and join us every night at 7 the rest of this week, and let us know any questions. Thanks, Kristin. Okay, bye.
Awesome.